In order to propose to the woman he loves, Chang Xian, a Korean man, buys beautiful pairs of embroidered shoes from Shenyang. However, when he finally returns, filled with excitement and hope, he discovers that Ji Kai has already become engaged to another man. When Ji Kai sees Chang Xian again, she is startled and confused. Meanwhile, Chang Xian stands in silence. Unable to hide his disappointment, storms away in anger. Deeply unsettled by his sudden return, Ji Tai soon rushes back to find him. Later, Chang Xian is seen burning the embroidered shoes in the yard. As he picks up the most beautiful pair, he hesitates for a long time, lost in thought. Just then, Ji Kai arrives at his door. Cautiously, she reaches out to touch him, and for a brief moment, she feels the warmth of his presence, realizing it is truly Chang Xian standing before her. But Chang Xian, still filled with anger and hurt, speaks harshly to her. Shocked and wounded, Ji Kai responds with equally cold words. The two, overwhelmed by emotion, attack each other verbally without revealing their true feelings. After some time, when Chang Xian finally calms down and goes to see Ji Tai again, he happens to witness her saying goodbye to her fiancé at the door. He can tell that the man genuinely cares for her. Ji Kai, now more composed, begins to explain her situation to Chang Xian. She tells him that ever since he left for Shenyang, she had waited for him every single day, until one day the government informed her of his death. Ji Tai refused to believe that Chang Xian could die so easily, but when she received his belongings, the hairband she had once given him and his favorite fan, her heart broke completely. Chang Xian had once promised he would never part with them unless he died, and now those very items were returned as his relics. Ji Tai could only stare at them in disbelief. Around the same time, Ji Kai's father begins to suffer from mental illness and often goes missing. Each time, Zhu Yuanwu, a kind and reliable man, helps find him. Whenever Ji Kai's father sees Zhu Yuanwu, he becomes calm again. Grateful and touched, Ji Kai learns that Zhu Yuanwu not only cares deeply for her father, but also harbors feelings for her. He eventually proposes to her. Ji Tai knows he is a good man, one who has saved both her and her father. Yet deep in her heart, she still holds on to the faint hope that Chang Xian might return. That hope fades only when Liang Ying, Chang Xian's most trusted follower, confirms the devastating news that Chang Xian truly died in Shenyang. With no reason left to wait, Ji Tai finally agrees to marry Zhu Yuanwu. However, the truth is that Chang Xian is still alive. He had asked Liang Ying to tell Ji Tai he was coming back soon, but fate played a cruel trick on them. Now, as he sees Ji Tai preparing for her wedding, he realizes how wrong everything has gone. Even though she has already accepted the betrothal gifts and is just days away from marrying Zhu Yuanwu, Chang Xian cannot suppress his feelings. No matter how many obstacles stand in his way, his love for Ji Kai remains unshaken. Determined, he embraces her tightly and pleads for another chance, promising that he will never leave her again. He insists that he has prepared his own betrothal gifts and begs her to run away with him. Ji Tai stands frozen, overwhelmed by his sudden words. She quietly says she will not leave. Yet, on the night before her wedding, her face carries no smile, and her heart seems far away, lost in confusion and sorrow. At this time, Chang Xian decides to meet Ji Tai once again. He says he will ask her one final question. If she can live happily with another man and pretend never to have known him, he will let go forever and never appear before her again. But if she cannot, she should take his hand and leave with him. Hearing this, Ji Kai suddenly smiles. Every time Chang Xian confesses his love, he always ends up leaving her behind. Each time she waits in pain, her heart breaking a little more, telling herself she will never trust him again. Filled with sorrow, she says she will hate him for the rest of her life, until the day she dies, and that he too will one day know what it feels like to wait and wither away. Chang Xian doesn't argue. Instead, he pleads with her once more to come with him. This time, Ji Kai finally reaches out her hand and decides to elope with him without hesitation. Meanwhile, when Zhu Yuanwu realizes Ji Tai has gone missing, the couple is already hiding in a small inn on the outskirts of town. The innkeeper, noticing Ji Kai's once elegant but now dirty dress, quickly guesses she might be the noble lady who ran away with her lover. Chang Xian tries to remain calm, but his mind is restless. Later that night, after Ji Kai falls asleep, Chang Xian quietly takes out the pair of embroidered shoes he couldn't bring himself to burn and gently puts them on her feet. When Ji Kai wakes up, she looks at him softly and asks if he is truly willing to be her husband. Chang Xian embraces her tightly, confessing that he loves her deeply. So much that, rather than being her husband, he wishes he could be her wife, bound to her forever. Just then, voices call from outside. Gui Ni and Kong Kong have arrived. Gui Ni, having learned from Zhu Yuanwu that Ji Kai has eloped, doesn't come to scold her. Instead, he brings some of her belongings and gently tells her to follow her heart. He promises to look after her father and younger siblings in her absence. Moved to tears, Jikai hugs Guini and cries quietly, grateful for his kindness. The next morning, Changshan leaves early to the dock to arrange the ferry for their escape. After preparing everything, he plans to return to pick Jitai up and leave together. Meanwhile, Jitai stays behind in the inn, wearing the embroidered shoes he gave her, waiting with a hopeful heart. But as she waits, she suddenly remembers what Kong Kong said the night before, that her father has been wandering the streets every day, searching for her in his confused state. Overcome with worry, Jisai decides to return home one last time. She leaves a heartfelt letter for Changxian, explaining everything, and quietly heads back. At that moment, Zhu Yuanwu appears at Jikai's house. Knowing Jitai would come back if she heard about her father, he deliberately lets the old man wander outside. As expected, Jikai soon spots her father on the street and quietly follows him to the foot of the mountain. Only when they are alone does she dare to approach him. Holding his trembling hand, Jikai softly tells her father that she is leaving for somewhere far away, asking him not to worry. Just then, Zhu Yuanwu's voice echoes from the distance. Startled, Jikai tries to leave, but her father grabs her hand. In that instant, his mind suddenly clears. Gently touching Jikai's face, he tells her not to worry about the family, to be brave, to live for herself, and to chase her own happiness. At that very moment, Zhu Yuanwu rushes toward them. Standing by the riverbank, Jikai and Zhu Yuanwu face each other in silence. Without saying a word, Jikai turns to leave, while Zhu Yuanwu, though heartbroken, remains still. He knows her decision is final. Meanwhile, at the docks, Changxian finds Jikai's letter. He quickly packs his things and waits for her, unaware that she is already on her way. As Jikai nears the docks, memories of her father and younger siblings flood her mind. Torn between love and family, she finally stops, unable to take another step, and turns back. At dawn, Changxian goes to Jitai's home, only to see her wedding in full celebration. Jitai and Zhu Yuanwu stand together, smiling before the guests. Watching quietly, Changxian realizes this is the path Jikai has chosen. With tears in his eyes, he turns and walks away. But Jikai, sensing his presence, catches a glimpse of him leaving. She asks Kong Kong to deliver the embroidered shoes in a letter to Changxian. In the letter, Jikai admits she was moved by his love, but confesses that her trust in him was not strong enough to abandon everything. She asks him to forget their past and live freely. As Changxian reads her words, he throws the last pair of embroidered shoes into the river, letting their love drift away with the current. Watching from afar, Jikai's heart shatters. She once hated him for leaving, but now she hates herself for doing the same. For the first time, she truly understands his pain. All she can do now is silently bless him. Afterward, Changxian leaves with the crown prince to Shenyang, serving as a physician. Jitai, meanwhile, marries Zhu Yuanwu and becomes a noble lady, believing their paths will never cross again. However, a few years later, unrest breaks out in Shenyang. To fill the shortage of captives, Man Yi's men begin seizing innocent Koreans, especially noble women who fetch high prices at the slave markets. One day, Jikai and her maid, Kong Kong, are captured on the streets and forced onto a transport caravan. When they wake, they are already en route to Shenyang, surrounded by frightened prisoners. Jitai tries to reason with the steward, insisting she isn't a captive, but he ignores her. When a man nearby attempts to escape and is stabbed to death on the spot, Jitai realizes resistance means death. Determined to survive, she stays quiet, hoping for a chance to flee. Under the scorching sun, prisoners collapse one by one, their bodies discarded by the guards. As Kong Kong grows weaker, Jitai secretly bribes the steward with jewelry hidden in her clothing, begging him to let her maid ride in a cart. The caravan edges closer to Shenyang, and desperation fills Jikai's heart. Kong Kong urges her to seek out Changxian once they arrive, but Jikai refuses, saying she would never ask him for help. When the group stops at a small village to buy food, Jikai seizes a moment of clarity. She tears a piece from her skirt, pricks her finger, and writes a message in blood. Her husband's name, Zhu Yuanwu, and the words, Jitai Shenyang. She folds the cloth, hides it in her ring, and secretly throws it to a woman by the roadside, praying it will somehow reach her husband. The woman, though unable to read, senses its importance and keeps the blood-stained letter close. The captive group finally arrives in Shenyang. At the city gate, all prisoners are forced to kneel while Qing officials oversee their arrival. The emperor orders the Korean doctors to attend the inspection. Soon, the general commands 3 escaped captives to be dragged out and has their toes cut off in front of everyone, laughing cruelly as a warning. Terrified, the captives shrink together. Even the Korean guards can hardly watch, but Changxian stands silently among them, his eyes scanning the crowd. Yet he doesn't spot Jikai. After the inspection, Jikai and her maid, Kong Kong, are taken away by a palace servant named Momo. By fate, Changxian and Jikai narrowly pass by each other without noticing. Momo brings them to the palace to select attendants for the prince, and the elegantly dressed Ji-kai and Kong Kong quickly catch his attention. The prince chooses them, stirring jealousy in the princess next door. Ji-tai, unaware of the danger ahead, doesn't understand the Manchu language and has no idea what awaits her. Later, a Korean maid named Xiaozhen helps them change clothes. Ji-tai quietly begs her to explain that they are not captives. But Xiaozhen only laughs, saying it doesn't matter who they are. In the palace, everyone must obey. Otherwise, the princess will send them to the slave market, a place far more terrifying than the palace itself. That night, Ji-kai can't stay silent. She wakes Xiaozhen and begs her to teach a few words so she can speak to the prince directly. The next morning, she boldly approaches the prince and repeats what she learned, saying, "I'm happy to see you." Amused, the prince smiles, but the princess grows furious. Ji-tai notices something strange in the prince's gaze. When she tries to ask Xiaozhen about it, Xiaozhen panics and pushes her away. Before Ji-kai can react, the princess slaps her and accuses her of seducing the prince. Consumed by jealousy, the princess orders her guards to take Ji-kai to the backyard for punishment. There, a pot of boiling water and a blood-stained knife await. Just as a servant is about to cut off Ji-tai's finger, the royal nanny intervenes, warning that the prince has taken interest in Ji-kai, and if he discovers she was harmed, he will not forgive the princess. Forced to stop, the princess releases Ji-kai in anger. Terrified and shaken, Ji-kai returns to her quarters. A fellow Korean captive quietly tells her that Xiaozhen has deceived her. The prince's actions toward her are driven by desire, not mercy. If she resists or tries to escape, she will end up like those killed before her. Horrified, Ji-kai realizes she has no choice but to endure and wait for a safer chance to flee. Meanwhile, back home, Zhu Yuanwu sends his men across the region searching for Ji-kai. When no trace is found, Liang Ying, Chang Xian's younger brother, arrives with a young boy who claims to have seen Ji-kai and Kong Kong being taken away by soldiers. Liang Ying explains that recently several captives have escaped from Shenyang, and Man Yi's men are seizing innocent people to replace them. He believes Ji-tai has been mistakenly captured. However, Zhu Yuanwu refuses to believe him, suspecting instead that Ji-kai ran away with Chang Xian and that Liang Ying is helping his brother. To prove his honesty, Liang Ying begs Zhu Yuanwu to let him go find Ji-tai himself. It's the only way left to uncover the truth. Zhu Yuanwu finally agrees to Liang Ying's plan. Soon after, Liang Ying and Yanjun follow the trail of the Qing army, hoping to find any sign of Ji-tai. As they pass through a small village, they come across a blood-stained letter left behind by Ji-kai. Seeing the letter, Zhu Yuanwu's doubts vanish. He finally believes that Ji-kai has been captured by the Qing forces. Liang Ying explains that if they want to rescue Ji-tai, they must go to Xinjiang immediately and prepare a large ransom. Hearing this, Zhu Yuanwu wastes no time. He gathers as much money as he can and sets out for Xinjiang with his servants. Meanwhile, back in the palace, Ji-tai remains completely unaware of what's happening outside. Kong Kong, however, overhears the maids talking and learns that Ji-kai has been chosen to serve in the palace. Shocked, she quickly tells Ji-kai the news. Ji-kai is stunned. Feeling hopeless, Kong Kong says there's no way to escape from this place. But Ji-kai refuses to give up. He decides that no matter what, he must find a way to contact Chang Xian, believing that only he can save them. Later that night, Momo enters with a group of attendants and drags Ji-tai to the bathhouse to prepare for bed. While this happens, Kong Kong spots a doctor passing through the courtyard and desperately begs him to deliver a message to Chang Xian, saying that Ji-kai is trapped inside the palace of Shenyang. But before the doctor can respond, Kong Kong sees the princess approaching and quickly runs away. Inside the bathhouse, Ji-kai is stripped of his clothes. Momo looks at him carefully and says something in Manchu, her tone full of satisfaction. After she leaves, Ji-kai anxiously asks Kong Kong what her words meant. Kong Kong explains that Momo said Ji-kai's body is clean and unscarred, which means he's being prepared to become the emperor's son-in-law. Hearing this, Ji-kai is completely shocked. Kong Kong adds that if Ji-kai becomes the emperor's son-in-law, he'll live a far better life than in Joseon. But Ji-kai doesn't see it that way. He feels humiliated and desperate. At that point, an idea flashes through his mind. He grabs a vase and smashes it against his own forehead, making himself bleed. When Momo rushes in and sees the blood, she panics, knowing the prince would never touch a woman with a scar. Furious, Momo decides to sell Ji-kai at a high price in the Furu market. The next morning, Ji-kai and Kong Kong are dragged to the crowded market. Looking around, they see countless captives lined up like objects, some chained, others trembling with fear. Ji-tai looks at the hopeless faces around him and realizes that this might soon be his own fate. As the auction begins, the captives are paraded onto the stage one by one, forced to undress and sold like property. Ji-sai and Kong Kong hold each other tightly, their faces pale with fear. When it's Ji-kai's turn, he pleads with the steward to let them go, promising that his husband would pay a large ransom for their freedom. But the steward laughs coldly, saying, Jikai clearly doesn't understand where he is. In this market, he says, he's seen children redeem their parents, parents redeem their children, or wives redeem their husbands, but never the other way around. Once a woman is sold here, she loses her reputation and her worth. Hearing this, Jikai's last bit of hope collapses. He clings to Kong Kong, silently waiting for their fate. But just then, a commotion breaks out. One of the captives suddenly collapses. Fearing an infectious disease, the steward hurriedly opens the cell door to check. Unexpectedly, the sick captive attacks him. It turns out to be a planned riot. Chaos spreads instantly as the captive sees the chance to escape. Jitai grabs Kong Kong's hand and runs. Outside, Furu hunters chase after the fleeing captives. Arrows whistle through the air, narrowly missing Jikai. Just as one of the hunters aims his bow at Jikai, Changxian appears. Though officially a Furu hunter himself, Changxian has been secretly working to protect and rescue the captives instead. When the leader of the hunters releases his arrow, Changxian swiftly draws his bow and blocks it, saving Jikai's life. Jizai manages to escape with a small group of captive women. However, their freedom doesn't last long. Man Yi and his men soon catch up to them at the edge of a steep cliff. Cornered and terrified, the women choose death over dishonor. One by one, they leap off the cliff, ending their lives rather than be defiled again. Jikai, trembling but determined, refuses to give up. He pleads with the remaining women to stay alive, telling them that as long as they breathe, there's still hope for escape. His words move them, and the rest of the group decides not to jump. But their hope is short-lived. Before long, Man Yi's soldiers capture them again. Back at the Furu market, the leader cruelly sells Kong Kong to a faraway place, while Jikai is dragged into a fat Man Yi's chamber. Inside, he feels the stares of strangers on his body and dares not utter a sound. Forcing himself to stay calm, he tries to think of a way out. Meanwhile, Zhu Yuanwu, Jitai's husband, arrives at the Furu market holding Jitai's portrait. The horrifying sights and foul smell of the place make him sick to his stomach. He can hardly bear to imagine what Jikai must have endured. He remembers people warning him along the road that women who end up in the Furu market are never pure again. The thought torments him, twisting his heart with shame and hesitation. That night, Zhu Yuanwu secretly bribes the steward for information. The man cheerfully tells him that Jikai has already been sold to Man Yi. Hearing this, Zhu Yuanwu's face turns pale. Believing Jikai has been defiled, he loses all courage. Rather than face public ridicule, he decides to abandon Jikai. He returns home, ashamed and defeated, and later spreads word that Jikai has died in the Furu market. When his family learns that he returned without Jikai, they are heartbroken. At the same time, Liang Ying discovers that Zhu Yuanwu never tried to redeem Jikai. Fearing for Jikai's safety, and knowing how devastated Changxian would be, she decides to travel to Shenyang herself to inform him. Back in the Furu market, Jikai endures more cruelty. After being sold to Man Yi, he fights back, biting off part of Man Yi's ear before escaping. Enraged, Man Yi captures him again and sends him back to the Furu market. The furious steward takes it out on Jikai, mocking him and cruelly lying that Zhu Yuanwu has already returned home and has no intention of saving him. Hearing this, Jikai's final spark of hope dies out. After struggling and enduring so much, he realizes his life has led only to betrayal and despair. Sitting alone in the dark cell, he wonders what fate still awaits him. The next morning, Jikai is dragged out to face punishment. Just when he believes his end has come, he suddenly spots Changxian not far away. For a moment, he freezes, unsure if what he's seeing is real or just a cruel illusion. But as Changxian turns, Jitai quickly lowers his head, ashamed to let him see his broken and miserable state. Changxian, meanwhile, catches the sound of a voice that reminds him eerily of Jikai's, but he shakes off the thought. After all, Jikai was once a respected official. How could he possibly be in a place like this? Later, back in his quarters, Changxian can't shake off the haunting voice echoing in his mind. He feels uneasy, unable to rest. Then, Liang Ying finally arrives in Shenyang and tells him the truth. Jitai has indeed been locked up in the Furu market. Realization strikes him like lightning. The figure he saw earlier really was Jikai, not once but twice. The first time was at the gates of Shenyang, and the second was when he accompanied the hunters and saw Jikai being seized by Man Yi. Without a second thought, Changxian rushes to the Furu market. He searches through the crowded cells until he finally spots Jikai being led onto the auction platform, displayed as a prized item. The steward touches Jikai's face and parades him before the crowd, drawing excited shouts from the buyers below. Jikai, dazed and weak, looks out across the room. And then, among the faces, he sees Changxian. At first he thinks it's another illusion, But as Chang Xian steps forward, walking straight toward him, Jitai realizes this time, it's real. Chang Xian pushes through the noisy crowd, shielding his eyes as he forces his way forward, blocking one guard after another until he finally reaches Jikai. The moment his eyes meet Jikai's face, tears rush down uncontrollably. He can't understand why has fate brought Jikai to such misery again. Before he can speak, the steward's men rush in and strike Chang Xian unconscious, tearing the two apart once more. When Chang Xian wakes, he immediately returns to the Furu market, desperate to find Jikai again. Quietly, he bribes the steward and manages to buy the clothes Jikai once wore. Meanwhile, Jikai is taken to a dark room, where a set of new clothes and a table of wine wait for him. Fear grips him. He thinks it's another trap, but as the door opens, he realizes it's Chang Xian. Their eyes meet, both filled with sorrow and disbelief. Chang Xian gently tells Jikai that he should have lived happily in Joseon, free and proud. What confuses him most is why Jikai, knowing he was here, never asked for help. Jikai, trembling, says he owes Chang Xian too much already and begs him not to risk more for his sake. But when Chang Xian sees the scar on Jitai's forehead, his heart breaks completely. No matter what Jikai says, he vows he will save him this time. Downstairs, Chang Xian confronts the steward and demands to redeem Jitai. The man coldly names a price, 300 taels of silver, but later refuses to sell him at all. Enraged, Chang Xian beats the steward and his men until the man finally agrees. Not stopping there, Chang Xian redeems every captive in the market, hoping to ease Jikai's guilt. Afterwards, he returns to Jikai's room and reaches out his hand once again. This time, Jikai doesn't resist. Chang Xian takes him to the attic, and together they cross through the door. Two souls scarred by the past, finally breathing the same air again. That night, silence fills the room. Jitai can't speak. He just cries quietly until morning. Chang Xian stays by his side, holding him as if afraid he'll vanish again. At dawn, Chang Xian hurries to the Ministry of Revenue to get Jikai's official papers, planning their escape. But when he returns, dressed in new clothes and full of hope, the steward delivers devastating news. Jitai has already been bought by a Qing princess. This princess, the powerful leader of the Qing captive hunters, had met Chang Xian several times before during military operations. She admired his calm composure and began watching him closely. When she learned that Chang Xian was willing to risk everything to save Jikai, her curiosity grew. What kind of woman could make such a disciplined man lose control? Out of obsession, she spends a huge sum to purchase Jitai herself. When Jikai is brought before her, the princess questions him in Manchu, but Jikai boldly replies in Korean, cursing her outright. The translator, flustered, tries to twist Jikai's words into something polite. Unfortunately, the princess understands Korean perfectly. She catches every insult. Enraged, she orders her guards to beat Jikai mercilessly. When Chang Xian hears that Jikai has been taken by the princess, he rushes to her palace, begging her to release Jikai. Seeing the proud and composed Chang Xian reduced to such desperation, the princess feels a mix of jealousy and resentment. Smiling coldly, she refuses his request and lies that she plans to present Jikai to the emperor as a gift. Chang Xian's heart sinks. He knows the princess is capable of carrying out every cruel word she speaks. With no other choice, he begins searching for another way to save Jikai. And soon, fate gives him an opening. The frontline war grows tense and chaos starts to spread once again. The emperor, facing intense pressure from the ongoing war, orders the crown prince to provide a new batch of military provisions. Seeing an opportunity, Chang Xian steps forward and offers to handle the matter himself. He promises the crown prince that he will successfully secure the supplies, but only if the prince agrees to help him redeem Jikai from the emperor afterwards. The crown prince accepts the deal, giving Chang Xian a glimmer of hope. Before leaving on his journey, Chang Xian quietly visits Jikai. He gently tells him that he'll be away for a few days on an official mission, and asks him not to worry. However, Jikai soon learns from the other maids that the princess has feelings for Chang Xian, and she even threatens that if he dares to protect Jikai, she will destroy him completely. Fearing that he might bring danger upon Chang Xian, Jikai decides to lie. He pretends that life in the palace is comfortable and begs Chang Xian not to take any risks for him. But the bruises on Jikai's neck tell a different story, and Chang Xian instantly realizes the truth. After Chang Xian leaves, the princess confronts Jitai, asking whether he would rather serve the emperor or remain as her maid for the rest of his life. Jitai pauses for a moment before replying that he would rather serve the emperor. The princess assumes Jikai is greedy for status and wealth, but in reality, Jikai already has a plan in mind. The next day, the princess brings Jikai before the emperor Huang Taiji. Nervous but determined, Jikai musters the courage to speak in Manchu, which he has only recently learned. He bows deeply and explains that he is a captive from Korea, bravely exposing how Korean women are being mistreated by their masters. The emperor is taken aback by Ji Kai's honesty and impressed by his effort to learn the Manchu language just to speak the truth. Deeply moved, he gathers his ministers and issues a strict decree. From that day forward, no one is allowed to abuse Korean captives. Anyone caught doing so will face death, and their families will suffer the same fate. As a result, the mistreatment of Korean prisoners is finally brought to an end. However, since Ji Kai had been purchased with money, the emperor decides not to free him outright and instead returns him to the princess, instructing her to deal with the matter herself. Back at the residence, the princess locks Ji Kai in a small dark room once again. Meanwhile, after completing his mission and delivering the military provisions, Changxian hurries back, only to discover what has happened. Desperate and heartbroken, he goes to the princess and begs for Ji Kai's release. He offers to take any punishment in Ji Kai's place, whether it means losing his fingers or toes, or even becoming the princess's slave. He pleads sincerely, asking her to spare Ji Kai's life. The princess, seeing his devotion, proposes a cruel deal. She tells Changxian that if he agrees to accompany her on a life-and-death hunting game, she might reveal Ji Kai's whereabouts. Though he knows the hunt is dangerous, Changxian agrees without hesitation, all for Ji Kai's sake. The next day, the princess leads Changxian to a vast grassland. It's not a typical hunting ground. It's actually the only route that Korean captives can take to return home from Shenyang. Changxian immediately realizes that something is wrong. The princess smirks and tells him they're not hunting animals today. They're hunting people. When she points toward a captive in the distance, Changxian turns to look, and his heart stops. The captive is Ji Kai. Earlier that morning, the princess had secretly ordered a maid to send Ji Kai on his way back to Korea. However, before he left, the maid warned him to follow the princess's instructions carefully and never attempt to meet Changxian again. If he disobeys, she warns, Changxian will face unbearable suffering. Though Ji Kai cannot understand the princess's true intentions, he still obeys. With a heavy heart, he sets out toward his homeland, unaware of the dangerous plan unfolding behind him. The princess stands at a distance looking at Ji Kai as she calmly announces the rule of the hunt. There is only one. Whoever captures the captive first will be the winner. If the princess wins, both Ji Kai and Changxian will live, but Ji Kai must stay by her side as a slave for life. On the other hand, if Changxian wins, Ji Kai will be set free, but Changxian must die. Hearing this, Changxian looks at Ji Kai from afar and quietly makes a choice in his heart. At that moment, the princess suddenly stabs Changxian with a knife, not to harm him, but to signal the start of the hunt. As soon as her voice fades, Changxian, ignoring the pain, rushes toward Ji Kai, shouting her name as he runs. Meanwhile, Ji Kai turns around and sees him coming. For a moment, her heart is filled with emotion, but she remembers the maid's warning and forces herself to keep moving forward. Just then, the princess charges ahead on horseback, quickly catching up. Changxian follows the order and keeps shouting for Ji Kai, but she doesn't respond. When he sees the princess overtaking him, he calls her name in desperation. Ji Kai turns back and sees Changxian running toward her. Her feet freeze in place, unable to move. At that point, the princess draws her sword and aims at Ji Kai, but Changxian throws himself in front of her, taking the blow. Afterwards, the princess takes the injured Changxian back with her. Though furious, she cannot understand why he would sacrifice his life for a woman. Still, she admits her loss and keeps her word. She orders Ji Kai to be released. Ji Kai finally returns to Joseon, but her happiness doesn't last long. When she arrives home, she discovers that her husband, Ji Yuan Wu, has already married a concubine, and the woman is 6 months pregnant. Ji Yuan Wu doesn't explain or comfort her. Instead, he anxiously asks whether she was deceived while in captivity. Disappointed and heartbroken, Ji Kai quietly turns away. As she leaves, the pregnant woman, afraid of losing her place, begs Ji Kai not to return. Ji Kai looks at the woman's belly, says nothing, and walks away silently. On her way home, people whisper cruel things about her. Some men mock her as a dirty woman, while others insult her for bringing shame to Joseon. Unable to take it anymore, Ji Kai slaps 2 men across the face. Even her family becomes the target of gossip. Someone tells her father that Ji Kai must either leave the village or die. Her father, though furious, remains silent. Later, Ji Yuan Wu sends Ji Kai's sister to ask whether she was truly violated in captivity, saying her answer will decide if he divorces her. Ji Kai stays silent and never answers. That night, her mentally ill father enters her room, agitated by the rumors, and grabs her by the neck. Ji Kai struggles desperately until her close friend Ji Wensheng rushes in and saves her. After that, Ji Kai can no longer bear to see her family humiliated because of her. She decides to leave the village after divorcing Ji Yuan Wu. When they meet at the iron shop, she tells him calmly that she was deceived in the captive market, but it wasn't her fault. If he still wants a divorce because of that, she will not stop him. She explains that in Shenyang, it was Chang Xian who helped her return home, and during that time she gave her heart to him, something she cannot take back. After the divorce, Jikai quickly leaves the village. She and Chang Xian buy a small, rundown house outside the town and begin a simple life together, taking in homeless children one by one. Though life is hard, peace finally returns to her heart. Sometime later, the Qing court allows the Joseon crown prince to return home, and Chang Xian follows him back. Hearing the news, Jikai goes to the city gate, hoping to see him again. But when she sees the grand procession, she hides, afraid that Chang Xian might see her poor condition. As the captives and doctors return to their hometowns, Chang Xian, whose home lies near Jikai's, longs to see her again and learn how she has been. After hearing this, Liang Ying quietly visits Jikai, knowing how much she has suffered since her divorce. In order to keep Chang Xian from seeing Jikai's poor condition, Liang Ying brings her a beautiful new outfit and gently asks her to visit Chang Xian herself. However, he also warns her not to meet him again, explaining that every time Chang Xian is with her, something terrible happens. He's nearly lost his life more than once. For Chang Xian, he says, Jikai is like a curse. Hearing those painful words, Jikai falls silent, lost in memories of the past. The next day, she finally decides to see Chang Xian, but to make him give up on her, she disguises herself as a pregnant woman. They meet on a busy street and sit down for a drink together. With a forced smile, Jikai talks cheerfully about how her husband dotes on her and how she's treated well by all the maids. Seeing her happy expression, Chang Xian tries to hide his sorrow and lets her talk. When Jikai casually says she's craving steamed cakes, Chang Xian immediately runs around the street to buy them for her. As she eats, the sweetness of the cake mixes with the bitterness in her heart, and tears quietly fill her eyes. After a while, Jikai pretends that her husband has come to pick her up and starts to leave. But before she can go, Chang Xian gently stops her and says that Liang Ying is returning home tomorrow to hold a memorial and invite relatives and friends to sing. He tells her this is his last request, that she come, just once more. Unable to refuse, Jikai agrees. Later that night, she removes the fine clothes Liang Ying gave her and changes back into her rough, simple ones, feeling they suit her life better. What she doesn't realize is that Chang Xian is standing outside, watching through the door. He has just learned from Tong Tong and Zhuzhan that Jikai was abandoned and now lives alone in this broken-down house. Seeing her struggle to stay strong brings tears to his eyes. The next day, Jikai again dresses as a pregnant woman and goes to meet Chang Xian. He recognizes her disguise but doesn't expose her. Instead, he quietly takes her hand and leads her into the courtyard where Liang Ying's song echoes in the background. As the music plays, memories of her time with Chang Xian rush back to Jikai's mind, filling her with emotion she can no longer control. Finally, Chang Xian looks at her and asks softly, "How long do you plan to keep deceiving me?" Trying to hold back tears, Jikai says she's living a good life now and begs him not to pity her anymore. Then she turns around and leaves, but this time Chang Xian refuses to let go. Later that evening, he goes to Jikai's home. She seems to have expected him. A warm meal is already set on the table. This, she thinks, is something she's always wanted to do for him. As they sit together, it feels like a peaceful family dinner, the kind they could have shared for a lifetime if fate were kinder. After the meal, Jikai smiles faintly and says she has fulfilled her wish and has no more expectations left. Chang Xian, unable to hold back, asks why she divorced Ji Yuanwu. She sighs, preparing to explain, but before she can speak, Chang Xian admits he already knows, that her husband despised her because of him. Without waiting for Jikai's answer, Chang Xian finally pours out his heart. He tells her that he loves her regardless of wealth, beauty, or circumstance. Whether she loves him in return or not, it makes no difference to him. All he needs is her. His voice trembles as he continues, saying that although Jikai appears strong on the outside, he knows the pain she carries within. He blames himself for not being there to comfort her when she needed him most. From the moment he first met her, he has never stopped longing for her heart, and no matter what happens, he promises he will never leave her side again. At that moment, he steps closer, his eyes filled with emotion, and gently asks if he can hold her in his arms. And that's where this beautiful drama comes to an end.